What do the top 1% consultants do differently? Well, let's start off by defining what does 1% actually mean, and then I'm going to share with you 4 specific things that they do differently that allows them to achieve higher levels of success more consistently than other consultants. First of all, what does 1% actually mean? Well, we could judge, and probably the typical way of thinking about 1% is based on revenue, right? How much money do they make? And that certainly is a consideration, or it's part of what leads somebody to be able to feel or claim that they are in the top 1%. If you think about generally how 1% is used, right? The 1% of income earners, 1% of companies, right? This is usually based on the revenue, but there's a lot more to life than just revenue, right? And certainly even from the financial perspective, revenue by itself is a very misleading criteria, because you can have a company with high revenue but very low profitability. And so don't judge a book by its cover, or don't judge a revenue number just by looking at that top line number, because there's a lot more that goes into what actually kind of matters at the end of the day when it comes to profitability. But we could consider, and we could look at and say that a top 1% consultant has higher revenue and ideally higher profitability than 99% of others. The other metric that I think is an important one to consider when we talk about 1% is the impact, right? So how much impact are you making? Generally, the most successful consultants make a really great impact, which is why they're successful, because they get a lot of referral and ongoing, returning business and expansion of their business, because they do really great work. They have a process, they have a methodology, they have an approach that allows them or their team or collectively to deliver great value and results to their clients. Another consideration when it comes to defining 1% is how much of your business is coming to you versus you having to go out and kind of hunt or find your business. That doesn't mean that going out and hunting and doing outreach and having to contact people is a bad thing. In fact, some of the most successful growing firms certainly need to do a lot of that. They're not just sitting back and waiting for their phone to ring. However, if we look at a solo consultant or a small kind of more boutique firm, oftentimes they will reach a tipping point where after a period of working and doing a lot of outreach, doing all kinds of networking, essentially marketing and business development efforts, they've built a brand. They've got to that point, that tipping point, where people just realize maybe this is not the right angle. But anyways, you get what I'm saying. People really understand who they are. They've built their name, the brand in the marketplace, and people start coming to them. So if you're in the top 1%, you should certainly be seeing a lot of additional business or an increase in business that is coming to you, rather than you always having to go out to get that business. And that thing is that the top 1% also have a great lifestyle. They're not just settling for easy. So this is a combination of having a great lifestyle, working hard, but also not just maintaining and kind of sitting on your laurels. Really, the top 1% are always challenging themselves. And because they challenge themselves, because they take on bigger things, they, in almost all cases, are able to accomplish a lot more and reach new levels, right? Climb to higher places than 99% of others who are not willing to put in that work and are not willing to expand their minds, or not willing to put themselves in situations where they can really challenge and grow themselves. All right, so that's kind of how I view the 1%. Now let's get into 4 things that the 1% actually do, so that you can start to consider how you bring these into your own consulting business and practice. The first is that while there are proven approaches and steps that you can take to see results faster, the 1% understand that generally good things and meaningful things take time. So what I mean there is, when you see things that look like a real fast shortcut, when you see things that almost seem too good to be true, too easy, they usually are, right? It's not always the case, but most of the time that is the case. And so I'll give you an example of this. The 99% of people out there who struggle, who don't get the same level of results as the 1%, one of the things that they get excited by is being able to automate a whole bunch of things and send out a lot of emails, or send out a lot of fill in the blank to people. The mindset of the majority of people is, if I can get in front of more people, then that will lead to success as well. The other mindset that they have is, if I can do something faster, if I can do something easier, then that's better for me. And the 1% think about it differently, right? The 1% view that, okay, maybe actually I need to do something harder. I need to do something that doesn't scale. I need to do something in smaller units because it will deliver a greater result. And so if you think about emails and outreach, the majority of people, they will not personalize their emails. They will try and reach as many as they can, almost not, I'm not going to say spamming people, but they want to click a button and automatically just have one email go to a whole bunch of people. And the problem with that is that it leads to very poor results, because the people you're trying to reach are typically quite savvy. They know this is an email not really targeted just to them. You haven't done any homework about them. There's no personal connection and no real effort gone into it. So the 1% take time. They personalize their emails. They do a bit more homework on the person that they're going to be reaching out to. And they understand that while they may reach fewer people through that process and it doesn't scale as well, the results from that will be significantly greater than trying to get in front of too many people or many people all at once without using personalization. The other example with this is content and quality, right? The majority of people just try and kind of get content out quickly, but they don't spend a lot of time on their content creation. They're not thoughtful. They don't go deep into a topic. They just kind of stay at the surface level. And so what ends up happening is the majority of people put out very general, kind of regurgitated content that is very high level, that doesn't really add value, doesn't have a unique perspective or opinion. There's nothing really new or exciting about it, and therefore people usually do not pay attention to it. Whereas the 1% really think about going deep, detailed, they study, they find data, they share that, they add their own unique perspective and opinion, and therefore that really stands out. Another distinction here is that the 1% are very focused on giving value. They're open and willing, and in fact, they usually thrive and are excited by the idea of giving a lot of value to the marketplace and to those that they want to serve and work with without expecting a return in a short time frame. Whereas the majority of people that are not the 1% have more of a transactional mindset, right? They only want to give their best ideas when somebody pays them. Therefore, most people don't pay them because they've never done enough to show that they actually have great ideas, right? So this is the mindset. The 1% are usually willing to give more and slow things down because they know that even though it might feel slower initially, it ends up actually getting the much better results over the long term. Let's now talk about the second key area here, and that is the 1% have a method and a process, but that's not what they sell. Here's what I mean. The 1% have a proven series of steps, whether that's a framework, a playbook, a methodology, a structure that they use, right? A process. It's proven. They know what they need to do to deliver great results, and they have a process or an approach that when they use consistently, it delivers great results for their clients. So that is key. That's a distinction, because a lot of consultants don't have that, or they're cobbling things together, but they don't actually have a proven, consistent approach or process that they are really confident in. And there's a few dynamics here, because if you don't have that, then you generally, when you show up in the marketplace, you don't show up as confident. When you're having sales conversations, you're not as confident in those conversations when you're talking to buyers, because you don't have a process that you feel confident in, because you haven't developed one. The 1% have not only developed one, but they're confident in it, and that shows up, right? They exude confidence in their conversations. But the other component of this is that the majority of people try to sell the methodology, right? They try and sell the process. They sell the features. They sell the inputs and the deliverables. Whereas the most successful consultants understand that buyers are not buying deliverables. They're not buying inputs. They're not buying what you do. They're certainly not buying your process or methodology. Even though those things are important, what they're buying is the outcome. They're buying the value, the result, and again, the outcome they're going to get as you take them through whatever that process or kind of framework looks like. So sell the outcome, not the inputs or the deliverables. So the third distinction that really separates the most successful consultants is an understanding that you have to put in the work before you can reap the rewards. And I talked about this, in one of the earlier points here, that they embrace playing the long term. They understand and they actually enjoy. They know that if they keep doing things that create value, if they keep strengthening relationships, if they keep giving, if they keep showing up consistently through content, through conversations, through presentations, through making connections and introductions, right? Doing that over and over and over again with a focus on value and giving, then what happens is it turns into business. It turns into opportunities. It turns into referrals. Somebody all of a sudden contacts them that they would not have expected, but that only happened because they didn't stop. Whereas most people try a marketing tactic, they chase a shiny object, they push a whole bunch of buttons on a CRM or some other kind of automation with the hope that that's going to get them a great result. And when they don't see the result that they're hoping for and expecting in a short period of time, what do? They give up and they try something else. And they're jumping around from one thing to the next. And so they're not consistent. in their efforts. And when you're jumping around, you lose the benefit and the opportunity that being consistent and playing the long term provides you, because when you keep showing up, when you keep doing the things that create value, you are rewarded for them. You may not be rewarded for them today or next week or next month. It might take several months, and in some cases it will take years, but the level of reward will increase over time as you keep doing great things and providing great value. The fourth distinction is that the 1% invest in themselves. They understand the importance of studying. They understand how critical it is to go deeper. And that means that as they go deeper, as they're studying more, as they're really immersing themselves in their industry, in their area of expertise, they are raising the bar, right? They are becoming significantly more in the know, knowledgeable, and at expert level compared to others in their industry. These are the people that will pick up all the different books about their industry and go through all of them. They will have conversations with all kinds of people. They will read research reports. They'll look at the data, and they won't just do it once, they'll do it over and over again. So they're going deeper and deeper, and it's a constant part of their life and their business. And when they do that, what happens is, again, they're raising the bar to a whole new level so they can speak more intelligently. They have a much better grasp of what's going on. They see greater opportunities. And when they talk, when you're speaking to a buyer can just see that right away, that by the questions that you ask, by the things that you comment on, all that leads to you really positioning yourself as an expert. Therefore, buyers want to select you because you've put in the time, you've put in the work, and there's a clear distinction between you and others. Now, the other thing that they do in regards to investing themselves is the 1% understand that they can't become the 1%. They can't get to that level by doing everything themselves. And so they invest in being part of different mastermind groups, going to events, they get coaches or join coaching programs. And they do that because when you look at the best in any industry, right, in any kind of walk of life, they're never doing it by themselves. They always have a coach, they have a mentor, they have someone or many people on their side that are helping them, because the 1% understands that what they don't know, somebody else already knows. And so rather than them trying to figure out everything themselves, it's much faster and more effective to find somebody who has already been there and done that can help them to get to that next level faster. There you have it. Those are the 4 distinctions that separate the top 1% consultants from the majority of others in the marketplace. And I want to encourage you to look at each of these and think, well, how can you incorporate them into your business and into the way that you do consulting? If you'd like to learn more and access additional resources to take your consulting business to the next level, just go to the description below the video here, and you'll find a lot more over at consultingsuccess.com.